She accepted a ride home from someone she worked with every day. A normal favor, a quiet drive. Minutes later, the doors locked. After that, her phone stopped answering. What happens when the person you trust is the last one who sees you awake? She was the kind of person people trusted without thinking about it. Not because she tried to be, but because she felt familiar, safe. Someone you saw every day and stopped questioning. She worked a regular job, kept a steady routine, and rarely asked for help unless it made sense. That afternoon, nothing felt unusual. The day followed the same pattern it always did. Work ended a little later than usual. The building emptied slowly, co-workers filtering out in small groups, some heading to their cars, others lingering to finish conversations. She gathered her things, checked her phone, and realized the bus she normally took had already passed. It wasn't a problem. It never felt like one. She had options. She always did. That was when her co-worker offered the ride. They had shared shifts, small talk, complaints about traffic and deadlines. He knew where she lived, at least roughly. She knew his name, his schedule, the sound of his voice when he joked about the coffee machine breaking again. Nothing about him stood out as threatening. If anything, he blended in too well. The offer didn't come with pressure, just a casual, "I'm heading that way anyway." She hesitated for a moment, not because she felt unsafe, but because she didn't want to be a bother. Then she said yes. She sent a quick text to let someone know she was on her way home. The message was short, ordinary. It didn't hint at concern. The parking lot outside was still busy. Cars pulling out, doors closing, people saying goodbye. Security cameras watched silently from their usual angles, capturing nothing more than another end-of-day routine. She walked beside him toward his car, her pace unhurried. There was no argument, no visible discomfort, just two co-workers leaving work together. Inside the car, the conversation stayed light. Complaints about traffic, a comment about the weather, the kind of talk that fills space without meaning anything. She sat in the passenger seat, seatbelt clicking into place out of habit. The doors closed with a familiar sound. The engine started. For the first few minutes, the drive looked exactly how it should have. Headlights, stop signs, other cars passing by. From the outside, there was nothing to separate this ride from thousands of others happening across the city at the same time. No one watching would have noticed anything wrong. She checked her phone again. The screen lit up briefly. No missed calls, no warnings. She placed it face down on her lap. The route felt normal at first, then subtly different. A turn she didn't expect. A street she didn't recognize right away. She didn't say anything. People adjust. People assume there's a reason. The car continued forward. And somewhere between one block and the next, the ride stopped feeling like a favor. She had known him long enough to feel comfortable in small ways. Not close enough to share personal details, but close enough to recognize patterns. He was predictable at work, always on time, always said the same things. That kind of consistency builds trust without either person realizing it's happening. Over time, the brain stops scanning for danger. Their interactions had never crossed a line. No late messages, no private conversations, no moments that lingered too long. He was simply there, part of a routine. That familiarity mattered. It made the ride feel reasonable. It explained why she didn't question the offer or think twice before getting into the car. As the drive continued, the conversation slowed. Not abruptly, just naturally fading the way it does when there's nothing left to add. The radio stayed off. The hum of the engine filled the space between them. Outside, storefronts gave way to quieter streets. Fewer cars, longer stretches between stoplights. She glanced at the dashboard clock. Only a few minutes had passed. She should have been closer to home by now. The thought registered softly, without panic. She didn't accuse him of taking the wrong turn. Instead, she assumed he knew a shortcut. People often did. Her phone buzzed once. A notification she didn't check. She was about to pick it up when the car slowed and pulled toward the curb. She looked up, confused, expecting a red light or traffic. There wasn't one. The street was empty. That was when she heard the sound. A click. Subtle. Mechanical. The kind of sound people hear every day and rarely notice. The automatic locks engaged. She turned toward him, her confusion turning into something sharper. He didn't look back at her. His eyes stayed forward, hands steady on the wheel. He didn't explain. He didn't apologize. He just drove. The air inside the car changed. Not because anything violent happened, but because nothing did. Silence stretched. Her breathing became louder in her own ears. She reached for her phone, this time without thinking. The screen lit up. Signal bars still there. Battery still full. She didn't call anyone yet. People hesitate in moments like that. They search for a rational explanation. She asked a question instead. Her voice sounded calm, even to her own ears. She asked where they were going. He answered, but not clearly. His words didn't settle anything. They drifted past her without meaning. The car kept moving. Streetlights passed overhead in slow intervals, each one marking time, each one confirming they were still going forward. She watched the road signs, trying to orient herself, trying to regain control in small ways. Her phone remained in her hand now, her thumb hovering over the screen. She thought about opening a map. She thought about calling someone. She thought about how quickly a normal day had narrowed into this moment. The car didn't stop, and the distance between where she was and where she expected to be kept growing. Her body noticed the danger before her mind fully accepted it. A tightness settled in her chest. Her shoulders pulled inward, as if making herself smaller could change the situation. She kept her voice steady, asking another question, this time more direct. He answered again, but the words still didn't line up with the road unfolding outside the windows. The neighborhood looked unfamiliar now. Houses spaced farther apart, fewer lights on. The kind of place people passed through, not somewhere they stopped. She watched driveways slide by, each one a possible exit she didn't take. The car stayed at a consistent speed, not rushed, not cautious, just steady. She tried to unlock the door. Her hand moved slowly, carefully, as if sudden motion might make things worse. The handle didn't move. The lock stayed firm. That was the moment her fear became undeniable. Not loud, not frantic, just heavy. She asked him to stop the car. This time, he didn't respond at all. Her phone vibrated again. Another notification. She glanced down, then quickly typed a message with one hand. The words clumsy and short. She didn't explain. She didn't have time to. She just sent her location. The signal arrow spun briefly before locking in place. The car turned again. Another road. Narrower. The headlights cut through darkness that seemed to press closer on all sides. She watched his face in the faint reflection of the window. His expression hadn't changed. No anger. No excitement. Just focus. She realized then how little she actually knew about him. The version of him she worked with didn't exist here. That person belonged to the office, to shared breaks and casual jokes. This version was silent, controlled, unreadable. She considered screaming, considered banging on the window. But there were no other cars, no pedestrians, nothing to react. The isolation felt intentional, like the road itself had been chosen. Her phone screen dimmed and she tapped it awake again. The map showed her drifting farther from familiar streets. The blue dot moving steadily, obediently, wherever the car went. She tried to call, but the call didn't connect. She didn't know if it was the signal or something else. She told him she needed to get out. She said it louder this time. Her voice broke at the end of the sentence. He finally glanced at her, just for a second. Not with surprise, not with guilt, with something colder. A confirmation that this was no mistake. The locks stayed engaged. The car kept moving, and the realization settled in fully. The ride home was over, and whatever came next was no longer in her control. She stopped asking questions, not because she had given up, but because she understood something had shifted. The moment for conversation had passed. Whatever he intended to do, he had already decided. Her words no longer had weight. The road narrowed further, the pavement uneven now. The car slowed slightly, tires crunching over loose gravel. Trees lined both sides, their branches bending inward, blocking what little light the street lamps had offered. She tried the door again, harder this time. Nothing. The lock held. Her phone slipped in her hand, her fingers slick with sweat. She wiped her palm against her jeans and brought the screen back up. The signal was weaker now. Bars flickered, then steadied. She opened her messages, scanning for replies. None yet. The last thing she had sent was still there, time-stamped just minutes earlier. It already felt like another lifetime. She thought about running, about what would happen if the car stopped even for a second. She measured the distance to the trees, the speed they were moving, the risk. Every calculation ended the same way. There was no good moment. He turned onto a road that didn't look like it led anywhere. No houses, no signs, just darkness stretching ahead. The engine noise sounded louder now, filling the space between them. She could feel it vibrating through the seat. She told him again to stop. This time, he responded by reaching up and adjusting the mirror. The movement was calm, deliberate. He glanced at her through the glass, not turning his head. The look held no emotion she could recognize. It wasn't rage. It wasn't panic. It was certainty. The car slowed, then rolled to a stop. Her heart hammered, so hard she thought it might drown out everything else. She reached for the handle, pulling with both hands. The lock didn't release. She looked at him, searching his face for something human, some hesitation, some sign this could still end differently. He shifted the car into park. Her phone buzzed once, faintly. A reply had come through. She didn't read it. She couldn't take her eyes off him. The silence inside the car felt heavier than anything he could have said. He turned the engine off. In that moment, she understood this was the point of no return, not because of what he had done yet, but because of what he was about to do. The world outside the car felt impossibly far away, and the cameras that had watched her leave work were no longer watching at all. The silence after the engine shut off felt unnatural, too complete, the kind of quiet that presses in on your ears. She could hear her own breathing now, uneven and fast, and the faint ticking sound of cooling metal under the hood. Outside the car, nothing moved. No passing headlights. No distant voices. Just darkness and stillness. She looked down at her phone again. The screen showed the reply she hadn't read. One word. A question. Someone asking where she was. Her fingers hovered, then began to type. The signal bars dropped to 1. The message didn't send. She tried again. This time the screen froze for a second before returning to the same unsent text. She told him she needed to leave. She said it plainly, not shouting, not pleading, just stating it as a fact. Her voice sounded strange to her own ears, like it belonged to someone else. He didn't answer. He didn't even look at her. He sat still, hands resting loosely on the steering wheel, as if waiting. She reached for the door one more time, pulling hard, her shoulder pressing into it. The lock didn't give. Panic crept now, sharper and harder to ignore. Her chest tightened. Her thoughts raced ahead faster than she could control them. She thought about the last place she had been seen, the parking lot, the cameras, the people who assumed she had made it home by now. Her phone buzzed again weakly. Another attempt to reach her. The screen dimmed, then went black. Battery low. She pressed the side button. Nothing. She held it down longer this time. The phone stayed dark. She knocked on the window with the side of her fist, the sound dull and useless. She tried the horn, slamming her palm against the center of the steering wheel. It didn't make a sound. Either the engine being off or something else had disabled it. She didn't know which, and the not knowing made it worse. He finally moved. Not toward her, not away. He reached down between the seats, his movement slow, unhurried. She recoiled instinctively, pressing herself back as far as the seat would allow. Her heart pounded so loudly she was sure he could hear it. Whatever he was reaching for, he didn't show her. He straightened up again, his face still calm, still unreadable. He turned slightly toward her now, just enough to meet her eyes. There was no apology there, no explanation, just the quiet certainty that she was no longer part of the world she had left minutes earlier. Her phone stayed dark in her hand. The last message she sent remained unsent, and from that moment on, there were no more signals from her device. No outgoing calls, no replies, no movement anyone else could track. The ordinary ride home ended in that parked car, on a road no one expected her to be on. After that, there was only silence. When she didn't arrive home, no one panicked right away. That was the problem. She was responsible, independent, the kind of person who didn't need to check in every minute. A late evening didn't automatically raise alarms. Time passed quietly, unnoticed by anyone outside that dark stretch of road. The first concern came in the form of a missed call, then another. Her phone went straight to voicemail. Messages sat unread. The location she had shared earlier showed a place that didn't make sense, frozen there without explanation. Whoever saw it assumed it was a glitch. Phones did that sometimes. People didn't imagine the alternative. Hours went by. At work, her absence was noticed the next morning. At first, it was brushed off. Maybe she'd taken a day off. Maybe she was sick. By midday, the uncertainty grew heavier. She hadn't said anything. She hadn't asked anyone to cover for her. That wasn't like her. Someone mentioned the ride. It was casual at first. A passing comment. She'd left with a coworker. That detail seemed harmless on its own. People remembered seeing them walk toward the parking lot together. They remembered nothing strange about it, just the usual end-of-day scene. The coworker was asked about it. He said he dropped her off, said she got out near her place. The explanation was simple, confident. There was no visible reason to doubt it. People wanted it to be true. It allowed them to stop thinking about what might have happened after. But her phone stayed silent. By the end of the day, worry hardened into fear. Family members tried calling hospitals. Friends checked places she liked to go. No one could place her anywhere after that ride. Her bank cards weren't used. Her social media stayed still. The digital trail that usually followed a person everywhere simply stopped. The parking lot cameras were reviewed. They showed exactly what everyone expected to see. Her walking out of work, getting into the car, the door closing, the vehicle pulling away. Nothing dramatic. Nothing that explained why she never came home. That normalcy made everything worse. As night fell again, the weight of her absence settled in. The unanswered messages stacked up. The shared location remained unchanged, a pin on a map that didn't tell a story. The coworker stopped responding after giving his explanation. Whether out of fear, guilt, or something else, no one knew. What everyone did know was this: the last confirmed moment of her day had been ordinary. A ride home, a trusted favor, and after that, she had disappeared into silence. The question wasn't where she went. It was why the person she trusted was the only one who claimed to know. As concern turned into urgency, small details began to matter more than they had at first. Timelines were replayed. Messages were reread. People tried to line up what they knew with what they assumed. The ride home became the center of everything, not because it was dramatic, but because it was the last thing that made sense. The coworker's account didn't change. He repeated it the same way each time. He said she asked to be dropped off early, said she got out of the car and walked away, said he watched her reach the sidewalk before driving off. The words sounded practiced, though no one could say why. Familiar stories often do, but the details didn't sit right. The location he described didn't match the last signal from her phone. The timing fell off by just a few minutes. Not enough to prove anything, but enough to unsettle the people listening. Small gaps opened up, questions without clear answers. When asked why he took that particular route, he shrugged it off. Traffic, a shortcut, something he'd done before. The explanation was reasonable on the surface. Too reasonable. Every answer seemed designed to close the conversation rather than invite more. Those who knew her noticed the contrast. She was careful. She shared plans. She didn't disappear without telling someone. The idea that she would step out of a car in an unfamiliar place, late, without calling or texting afterward, didn't align with who she was. It asked people to believe she had suddenly become someone else. Her phone records told a quieter story. The last activity showed attempts to send messages that never went through. A location shared briefly, then frozen. After that, nothing. No movement. No data. Just an abrupt end. The kind of ending that rarely happens by choice. Cameras along nearby roads were checked, but they offered fragments, not clarity. A vehicle passing through intersections. Headlights among dozens of others. Nothing definitive. Nothing that showed her stepping out of the car. The absence of proof began to speak louder than any image. Pressure built slowly. Not publicly. Privately. The coworker grew more withdrawn. He stopped answering calls. Missed work. People noticed, though they didn't know what it meant. Silence can signal many things. Fear, stress, or something harder to name. Those closest to her held onto the last ordinary image they had. Her walking out of work. The way she moved without hesitation. The trust she carried into that parking lot. They compared it to the story they were being told now, and the two didn't fit together. No one could say exactly what had happened in that car. But more and more, it felt like the truth was smaller than a dramatic moment and heavier than a single lie. It lived in the space between what was said and what could no longer be heard from her at all. And as the days passed, one fact refused to fade. The only voice still speaking belonged to the person who had driven her away. Time did what it always does in cases like this. It stretched the unanswered questions until they became part of daily life. Her name stopped appearing in new messages. The searches slowed. The urgency dulled, not because she mattered less, but because people grew tired of not knowing what to do next. Her absence became a quiet weight carried by the people who loved her. They replayed her last day over and over, not looking for drama, but for something they might have missed. A pause, a hesitation, a moment when she could have chosen differently. Each replay ended the same way, with her accepting a ride that should have taken her home. The coworker eventually stopped being a presence at all. No public explanations. No visible breakdown. Just distance. Whether he disappeared out of guilt, fear, or something else was never fully answered. His version of events remained the only complete narrative, even as it left too much unexplained. What lingered most was how ordinary everything had been. No warning signs. No arguments. No raised voices captured on camera. Just a normal workday and a small decision made out of convenience and trust. That was the part people struggled with. It meant there was no clear line between safety and danger. The footage from the parking lot continued to exist, unchanged. It showed her walking into the frame and never walking out again. People who watched it later focused on her posture, her pace, the way she followed him without hesitation. They searched for fear that wasn't there yet. Her phone was never recovered. The last location remained a fixed point, a digital marker with no story attached. No calls came from it again. No signals. Just a quiet ending that refused to explain itself. For those who knew her, the loss never resolved into something neat. There was no moment of understanding, no final image to hold on to, just the knowledge that trust had been used against her, and silence had followed. Even now, the idea of accepting a ride from someone familiar feels different for them. A smaller decision, a shorter distance, a moment that could change everything. Because somewhere between a locked door and a phone going dark, a life was interrupted. And all that remains is the space where her voice should have been, and the unsettling truth that the most dangerous moments often look exactly like ordinary ones.